Hello and welcome to the Week 10 edition of the Pickwatch podcast. I am Joyner, the football scientist. You may remember me from my 14-year stint with ESPN where I covered the NFL and fantasy football. I'm now on the independent path being my website, thefootballscientist.com, and I'm writing a weekly pick'em article for Pickwatch. My Week 9 picks went 9-5, bringing my 2020 season mark to 90-42, or a 68.2% win rate. Here are my Week 10 picks. Each section details which team is predicted to win and provides a quick summary of why that selection was made. The picks also contain a confidence value for each selection based on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. Now on to the picks. Let's start with the Thursday night contest in Indianapolis at Tennessee. The Titans started off the year with 5 straight wins, but have since lost 2 of the past 3 due in large part to their offense. Tennessee racked up 31 or more points in 4 out of its first 5 games, but has since scored 24 or fewer points in 3 straight and tallied fewer than 300 net offensive yards in 2 of those games. It is not a good trend against the Colts defense that has allowed fewer than 300 net offensive yards in 5 contests this year. Turnovers may afford the Titans the necessary edge, as Tennessee has 5 games with 2 or more takeaways and could make it 6 against the risk-taking Phillip Rivers. Throw in this being a short week road game for the Colts, and the Titans get to pick this one with a confidence level of 3. Now we're off to the AFC North for Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. To get an idea of just how much of an impact Joe Burrow has had on the Bengals offense, consider this. In 2019, Cincinnati had 6 games with 350 or more offensive yards for the entire season. They already have 5 games with 350 more offensive yards and only at the halfway point of this season. That might normally be an unrealistic goal against the powerhouse Steelers defense, but Pittsburgh has given up 821 offensive yards over the past 2 weeks. The Black and Gold could also be missing Ben Roethlisberger in this contest, as he was placed on the reserve COVID-19 list on Tuesday. Pittsburgh has won 10 straight against the Bengals and has home field advantage and a huge talent edge in this contest, and thus is the selection here. But the COVID issues lower the confidence level considerably in this one, so it's Pittsburgh with a confidence level of 3. Now we're off to the NFC East for Philadelphia at the New York Giants. The Eagles have been a giveaway machine on offense and have posted more than 250 net passing yards in only 1 game this year. Yet Doug Peterson's play-calling creativity and Travis Fulgham's big playability have pushed Philadelphia to tally 22 or more points in 6 straight games. The Giants may not want to test an Eagles secondary that has allowed fewer than 260 net passing yards in all but 1 game this year, but they will want to go after a Philadelphia rush defense that has surprisingly given up 130 more rushing yards in 4 straight games. The key to this pick is Daniel Jones, as he may be the only other quarterback in the NFL to be as turnover-prone as Carson Wentz. That eliminates the biggest potential advantage New York has in this contest, so the selection goes to the Eagles by a very small margin in this one with a confidence level of 2. Now let's take a look at Jacksonville at Green Bay. This is the biggest mismatch of Week 10. The Packers had to go with a revamped backfield last week in a short week road contest versus San Francisco, and yet still racked up 34 points, 405 offensive yards, and then 111 rushing yards despite being in cruise control for much of the second half. The Jaguars offense did show more big playability last week in rookie quarterback Jake Luton's first start, but Jacksonville has lost 7 straight games in large part because they have allowed 27 or more points in 7 straight games and have posted only 7 takeaways all year. Add in this being a home game for the Packers, and this selection easily lands in their column with a confidence level of 9. Next up is Washington at Detroit. 5 turnovers were the main reason Washington lost to the Giants last week, but let's not overlook the fact that the football team had a season high in passing yards and offensive yards last week, in part because their third-string quarterback will be the top backup on most teams. The Lions' offense should be their strong suit, but Detroit has posted 23 or fewer points in 3 straight contests. The Lions also have the makings of an atrocious rush defense as they gave up 275 ground yards to the Vikings last week. This is truly the definition of a toss-up game, so Detroit gets this pick due to having home field advantage and also having a slight edge in offensive playmakers over Washington, so give this one to them with a confidence level of 2. Now we go what used to be a mainstay in the AFC Central Division back in the day, Houston at Cleveland. There may not be a platoon with a wider performance variance than the Browns' offense. Cleveland has racked up 5 games with 32 or more points this year and is 5-0 in those contests, but they've also posted 3 games with 7 or fewer points and have lost all those matchups. This means the Houston defense will be the key factor in this battle, but that doesn't bode well for the Texans, as Houston has allowed more than 360 yards in every game this year, has posted 5 games with 0 takeaways, and has given up 28 or more points in 6 games. Those elements push this pick strongly in Cleveland's direction, so they get this game with a confidence level of 7. Now we head to the NFC South for Tampa Bay at Carolina. What in the world was that? Tampa Bay's offense had been on a roll heading into the Sunday night game against the Saints, but a variety of factors led Tom Brady to have what was arguably the worst game of his career. Having noted this, there are few teams as creative as New Orleans, so this almost certainly isn't an omen for the Bucs' future production. The Panthers saw an offensive renaissance last week with the return of Christian McCaffrey, but CMC could either miss this contest or be at less than full strength due to the shoulder ailment. That should afford Tampa Bay more paths to victory in this one, so they earned a selection with a solid confidence level of 6. Next up is one of the more interesting matchups this week, the LA Chargers at Miami. The Chargers might seem like they are extremely unlucky given how many close games they have lost, yet the reality is they're getting into too many shootout games. Those are 50-50 propositions even for the best offenses in NFL history, so the Chargers' 1-4 mark in those types of battles simply indicates they should not be getting into shootouts any more than is necessary. That is potential good news against a Miami team that has only been in 2 shootout games this year. But the bad news is the Chargers have to face a Dolphins defense that is tied for 6th in turnover drive percentage. Miami has had 0 turnovers in 4 of their past 6 games, so they will probably win that important statistical battle as well as this contest with a confidence level of 5. Next up is an AFC West matchup of Denver at Las Vegas. This is a matchup of 2 teams on the rise. Denver's won 3 of its past 5, and the Raiders have victories in 3 of their last 4. The Silver and Black's success has been due to posting 140 more rushing yards in each of those 3 victories, including 369 rushing yards in the past 2 games. The Broncos' improvement has been in the passing game as they had a season-high 302 net passing yards last week, and in takeaways, as Denver has racked up 7 takeaways in the past 4 contests. That latter trait may not come in handy against a Raiders offense that has only 3 turnovers in its past 4 games. Add that to this game being in the desert, and the Raiders are the pick in this one with a confidence level of 4. Now we're looking at one of the most exciting games in Week 10, Buffalo at Arizona. For most offenses, posting 400 or more offensive yards in the game is a notable achievement. For the Cardinals, it's just another day at the office. Arizona has now posted 400 or more offensive yards in 4 straight games and has tallied 6 games of this caliber for the season. Buffalo hasn't been quite as prolific in this area, but they have notched 4 games of 400 or more offensive yards this year, including in 2 of the past 3 games. The key here may be rushing consistency, as the Cardinals have tallied 100 or more rushing yards in every game this year, while the Bills have only hit triple digits in that area 4 times. Combine that with this being in Arizona, and the selection goes to the Cardinals with a confidence level of 4. This should be an interesting matchup, San Francisco at New Orleans. It's tough to hold the Week 9 Thursday night debacle against the 49ers, as they were so beset with injuries and COVID-19 losses that they were almost playing an entire second-string squad against the Packers. Having noted this, San Francisco has still lost 4 of its past 6 games, and 2 of its 4 victories this year came against the New York clubs that have a total of 2 wins between them. The Saints played a nearly perfect game against Tampa Bay last week and are on a 5-game win streak due to finding ways to get production out of every facet of their roster. That factor provides New Orleans with many more paths to victory in this home contest, so the Saints get this one by a notable margin with a confidence level of 7. This is another marquee matchup for Week 10, Seattle at the LA Rams. Early in the year, Seattle had mastered the art of winning shootout contests, but that historically 50-50 proposition has finally started to even out as the Seahawks have lost 2 of their last 3 due to turnovers keeping them from winning high-scoring games against Arizona and Buffalo. It may be tough for Seattle to keep that type of scoring pace going against a Rams defense that ranks 2nd in the league in points allowed per game. Los Angeles also sports an underrated offense, as the Rams have racked up 400 or more offensive yards in 5 games and 100 or more rushing yards in all but 1 contest. The Rams' ability to excel on both sides of the ball is something Seattle simply cannot do with its atrocious defense, so the Rams are the pick in this one with a confidence level of 4. This game isn't what we thought it was going to be coming into this season, Baltimore at New England. The Ravens seem to be flying under the radar a bit this year, which seems odd given had they held on to win that improbable Steelers comeback victory in Week 8, Baltimore would be on a 5-game win streak and would be in first place in the AFC North. The Ravens have done this despite throwing for more than 200 net passing yards in only 2 games this year, but their overpowering rushing attack should post superb numbers against the New England club that has allowed 120 more rushing yards in 5 of the past 6 games and given up 84 points in the past 3 games. Bill Belichick's creative play calling does give the Patriots a few paths to victory, but the Ravens' overwhelming advantage in nearly every other area makes them one of the strongest picks of the week with a confidence level of 8. Let's close out the week with the NFC North Monday Night Battle of Minnesota at Chicago. As it stands right now, the Bears are in second place in the NFC North, and the Vikings are in last. Yet the reality is these teams are trending in directions opposite of their current divisional standing. Chicago has lost 3 straight and 4 out of its last 6, in large part because they've scored 17 or fewer points in 3 of those losses. The Bears haven't rushed for 100 or more yards since Week 3 and will be challenged to do so this week since David Montgomery may miss this contest with a concussion. The Vikings' ground game may be in the best in the league right now as they've racked up 160 more rushing yards in 5 of the past 6 games and have posted 448 ground yards in the past 2 weeks alone. Chicago simply does not have the offensive firepower to keep up with Minnesota in this one, so the Vikings get this selection by a solid margin with a confidence level of 7.